So, welcome back everyone to another beautiful Friday on the Sunken Blimp Stage. I hope you're all having a great day so far, and I'm super excited for today's dive live and today's speaker. If you got a chance to check out the stage and check out the models and the presentation that we have set up so far, I'm sure you've seen the amount of work that has been put together for this past years. And without further ado, I would like to welcome to the stage Dany Sánchez. Where are you, Dany?
Hi, everyone. I'm right here. Hello, everyone.
Welcome, Dany. And for those that don't know, I'm gonna introduce Dany real quick. And Dany Sánchez is a Mexican-born industrial designer with more than 12 years working on the field and the visionary behind MiniWorld3D. MiniWorld3D is a project funded in 2014 with the primary goal of sharing the diverse architectural and cultural value and heritage of the world. This online collective of 44 plus designers and digital artists from 20 different countries create from scratch models of landmarks of the world using CAD software. 95% of their models are publicly available to download for free, with the exception of a few special and seasonal models that provide some funding for the operation. These models have been downloaded and printed hundreds of thousands of times all over the world, and they're used in education, film, art, and by blind and visually impaired who can discover landmarks of the world by touch. So thank you so much, Dany, for coming here, and now the stage is yours.
Hi, welcome everyone. Thank you so much. Yeah, that was a great introduction. Thank you so much. It was spot on. Yes. So if you will, I will start over. You can follow me. I am this one that's moving a lot right now. I'll start by one side of the stage, and I will briefly like to tell you a little bit of how we started, and then we will go around this horseshoe-shaped stage to walk through the stages of our process. I will do this as quickly and clear as possible, so that we can have more time for questions. And I would love for that to happen. I would love to hear any questions you have about the project itself, about 3D modeling, about 3D printing, about CAD software, anything you would like to ask that is within our competence. Okay, so let's start over here. Come over to this part of the stage where we have the Opera House from Sydney. This is where we will start. We will be looking mostly at the pictures that are on the wall, but of course, as you go, you can look at the models that are being exhibited here. These are real, our own real 3D models that we use for printing. Like exactly the same file is what you would download and print. And then here's a little bit of our story and how we got started. My name is Dany, and I'm from Mexico. I studied industrial design, and I learned 3D modeling in school. Pretty common for designers to use CAD software to sketch and to draft the things that are going to be created later, that are going to be produced later. So it's it has replaced drafting by hand on paper. It just saves you a lot of time and making mistakes before it gets really expensive with real products. So that's something I learned in school, and when I graduated, I traveled around the world and I met incredible people. And I met a person that was visually impaired from Finland, and she said to me, could you use 3D printing to create little buildings so that blind and visually impaired people like myself can know what the famous buildings of the world are like? Because if you think about it for a moment, a blind person does not know what your local church looks like or what your local monument looks like. They might have heard of the Eiffel Tower or the Big Ben or the Empire State Building, but I don't know if they could tell you what they are exactly like. You and I can look at a picture and see like, oh yeah, I can tell it's tall, it has an antenna, it has many windows, whatever. For them, it's obviously impossible. The materials that they have at their availability for learning from that is very, very limited. So my short answer to her was yes, we absolutely can. The problem is you need to have the 3D files existing first before you can 3D print them and distribute them. And at that time, this was in 2014, there was nothing, right? There was really few models. They were not great quality. Printing them was not great. They didn't turn out really good. So I started MiniWorld as an effort to create this gallery or library catalog of models of the world for everybody's enjoyment. And like Mathieu said, is people can use them for education. A lot of architects use them for their models. Some people have used them in film, in animated movies, etc. Small, small projects, because the models are free and available. And slowly, what we want to do is, grow this catalog to become the best, most complete, to include as many local landmarks as possible. So if if wherever the city you live in, if it's a major city, it's likely that we have it. And then we start going from there to more granular, to we got smaller cities and that. And that's why we have more people in the team. It started with just me, but now we have more. Every time I find someone online that makes something similar, I reach out and I invite them to join this collective. This is not for profit. This is not necessarily a business. We don't have an address. We don't have an office. We just contact people that do similar things and invite them to join. So for example, if you, for some reason, for fun, for a school project or on your job or whatever, created a building from your city or any building from around the world that we don't have in the catalog, you are welcome to join MiniWorld as a designer, as an artist. Everybody keeps the authorship, their credit. So we're a collective. You contribute with your model, and you are owner of that model. If you at some point you decide, hey Dany, I don't want to have my work in the catalog anymore because for reasons I want to sell it or etc., we take it down and you are completely owner of it. The only reason I ask people around the world to join is because it's a titanic task for me alone, right? To create 3D models of the entire world. So every time I find someone who has already joined or created a few of those, we're just joining forces and building the catalog much faster. So that's what we mean by 44 designers. That means at least one, they have contributed with at least one model, typically from their country or their city. And then there are a few designers that have created tons of models consistently every month or etc. All right. If you have any questions at any point of the presentation, please let me know, especially if it's in the context of what we're talking about. If you have any questions about our story, how we got started, and why this exists, please let me know. And then if not, we will move on to the next part. Here we have the number one. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh. Oh. Okay, yes. So we don't have necessarily a formal way of doing it. It's just contact. So for example, the main tool that I use for social media is Instagram. It's where we are the strongest, and I think it works really well because of the short videos and lots of pictures, very visual. And the 3D printing and 3D modeling community is very strong in Instagram. And typically there, while I'm scrolling through my feed, when I find someone who 3D printed a model that is not ours, that we don't have, I direct message them and I say, hey, I see that you created this. Are you the author? Did you make this? And would you like to, I tell them about MiniWorld, and then I invite them, would you like to, join forces, do something, have a greater impact together than if we just do it on our own individually? And typically people say yes, because, this is very open, this is very transparent. It's basically saying, join this platform that can catapult you to a much larger audience than if you just try to show your models on your own. And so that's why typically people say yes. Sometimes also people reach out to us. So they find us and they say, hey, I have this model. How can we do something together? How can we join? And the only thing we really ask is that, one, we don't have the model already, right? We don't want a duplicate. And second, that it's somewhat relevant to the world. So for example, if you 3D model your house, well, that's relevant to you, but it's not really, historical. It's not really a landmark. has to be something to some degree known for several people. And then the third, it has to be a model of enough quality, to our standards in terms of detail, in terms of printability. So it has to be optimized for 3D printing. And if it has those three criteria, then it's good to go. We welcome you. We create you your file. We create your member card with your name or your alias, your social media, and we promote your work as part of the collective.
I also have a quick question. How long it takes for you to make a model like this from zero?
Okay, great question. It really depends on the model and it depends on the designer. So some models are more complex than others. There are some really simple ones that I can whip out in a couple hours, and then there are some that take me a week of full-time work, for a 40-hour week of work. And so it really depends on the model. So some are really simple, and then others we try to do either more detail or a larger scale or moving parts or an assembly of multiple parts. That complicates everything a lot. So yeah, it depends. And you will see more about that as we go through this process, as we start talking about the other pictures and we go around the stage. You will see a little bit more of what I mean, and you will see why it depends on the model. Some are more simple, some are not.
Okay,
Did someone have
you.
another question? Yeah, you're welcome. Someone else had another question? Okay, then we can move on. And at the end, I will share with you our Instagram and our social media. So if any of you have 3D models, do this kind of stuff and would like to join, or if you know someone who does, so you can share this with them, and then grow the catalog, make the collective larger and have more people, and in the end just represent more countries, more cities, and have them in the catalog. All right. So if you like, I'd like to start with our process. This is roughly it's not like it's not hard a hard line process. It's very loose. We just kind of do it on our own. Each one of the designers has their own process. This one I'm sharing is mine personally. I do not impose any of this to the designers. Everybody's free to do whatever they want, as long as like I said before, the resulting model has the standard of quality that we require. This is a process that we follow mostly when it's a large or complex model. When it's a smaller, easier one, it can be a little bit more loose. But when it's something large, a large project, like for example, Notre Dame in Paris, that was a big project. That one took about a week to make the model. That one took extensive research. So this is the kind of the process we go. So the first step is to research. When we're going to create a landmark, we just want to know about it. I personally want to know about it. Sometimes it's a landmark that I saw, that I encountered in my travels, or it's just one that is really famous and we have to have. We read the Wikipedia page, we look at a ton of pictures, we try to find blueprints. If we cannot find blueprints, then we do aerial pictures. When you just Google aerial photographs, and you get amazing pictures, sometimes from drones, that give you an angle that you would never get from the street. Right? Some of these buildings are quite large, and the pictures from the street level don't really give you an idea of the scale, the size, the proportions. So pictures are our best friend in this case. And oftentimes also a screenshot from Google Maps gives us the top view for the layout, for the proportions. That's mostly what we do for the research. Then we go to number 2 here, to the sketching. Before starting on software, I always like to do on paper first. It helps a lot. It saves a ton of time and a lot of mistakes to foresee what you're gonna do. It's super important for me to start to sketching it out, blocking it out in paper first, trying to memorize the details, to understand to what degree of detail we're gonna put into the model. Because we're 3D printing this pretty small, we cannot go to a crazy level of detail because you would never see it. But we also don't want to do it so plain that it looks boring and just like a box. So we have to find that middle ground of detail that is enough for 3D printing and for the scale. So I usually draw top views, side views, front views, zoom ins of the details, and then just the blocking of the geometric bodies, so that when I go into the software, I kind of know which steps to follow. And it saves me a lot of time and a lot of backtracking when I'm like, ah, man, this was a mess. I should have started this other way. Remember, if you have any questions, please interrupt me at any point of the process. It's okay. Number three, once we have the sketches in my brain, it's kind of, I understand the building in my brain, and I understand its features, I understand its proportions, then it's time to go into the software. What I use is Autodesk Fusion 360. The reason why I use it, there's several reasons why I use this. One is because in school I learned parametric modeling. I learned SolidWorks, Solid Edge, and Autodesk's Fusion 360 is like their version of that. Every company whips out their own version of it. They're just kind of like the same. It's like, Coke, Pepsi, whatever. And then this one runs on a Mac, which is what I have. I have a MacBook Air, and this one runs on Mac, which is great. It also has cloud collaboration. So for example, if I have two designers or more can work on the same model, kind of like a Google Doc, which is amazing. Before that, you would have to, export, save, send, and then you start having a mess of versions. So this really helps with collaboration. Other designers use other programs. This is just the one I use, like for the reasons I explained, but other designers use Rhinoceros, even Tinkercad, ZBrush. It depends, whatever they're comfortable with. In the end, the file has to be printable and look, consistent. So what software you use to create it, up to you. In this picture here, I love it because it shows kind of like it's the easiest way I can explain with visuals, the process for modeling, and how we start with very, very simple boxy geometric bodies. And when people see our models, they're amazed. They're like, wow, this is so detailed. And how do you model this? Especially people that are familiar with 3D modeling. And then I explain to them, this is just hours of extrusions and cuts, really. We rarely use fancy operations. We rarely use, complex things like surfaces. That's really rare. It's mostly just extrusions and cuts. So it's basically like carving. It's really strange. It's a very artistic approach to using the software. It's very non-orthodox, right? It's very very free. So yeah, basically it's just adding bodies, adding volumes, and then subtracting volumes. And in the end, that's how you end up with this building. I think modeling in parametric software like this is great because the resulting file, like you can see here, the ones that are exhibited here in the stage, are very lightweight. They are solid. They don't have any issues of weird surfaces. They don't have any of the issues that sometimes 3D printing might have. And the files are really lightweight. Even when they look really complex, like this Big Ben right here, they look really detailed, but in reality, they're very lightweight for what you're seeing because the surfaces are really flat. The triangles are really few, etc. Any questions before we go to last point? All right. The last is just 3D printing. Once we have the model, like the ones you see here in the stage, we have to print them, do a test to make sure that they print the way we expect. Over the years, we have learned a lot about how to fine-tune the model so that it prints correctly. So at this point, I am very confident that when I print something, it's going to be correct at the first try. Very, very rare that something doesn't print quite right and we have to go back and change the model. Just because of the experience, I know what's going to fail in a print. I know the printer's not going to like. So at this point, the test print is almost like a one-off. Every time I print something, that's it. It's good to go. That, I think, is the hardest part when working with designers or 3D artists that are not super familiar with 3D printing. It's really easy to make a model that looks great, but will not print great. It's hard for me to communicate, and I just coach them through the changes they need to make to the model so that it can be super optimized for printing, and it prints perfectly clean, and the details are there. All right, so that's been our process. We went from research to sketching to CAD modeling and then test printing. And once all of this is done, we just publish the file online, and then people from all over the world download and do whatever they want with this. Mostly 3D printing, but like I said, some people use them on virtual settings, VR, even like we're seeing right now. All right. Thanks. All right, how are we doing with time? Is there a chance for any questions or any more? Okay.
Hi, it's me again. I wanted to ask you if have you tried with, I know you use plastic, well, not you exactly, but I guess you use plastic materials. Have you tried those recycled plastic materials that are new in your models?
Yes, so I have tried several materials, and especially in the last year, there's been a lot more filaments that are recycled, and I have definitely tried some of those. And from my experience using them, is they're absolutely just as good as the new or the virgin plastic ones. They if you wouldn't know that they were recycled, you would see no difference. So from that point of view, I'm all for the recycled ones. Usually there's few brands that do recycled filaments. Most of the times they are recycled from the same byproducts of their factory. So it's usually a filament factory that makes new filament, and then in the process of making them, of course, there's some waste, and they use that waste to make another line of filaments that are recycled. And then there are other companies that recycle bottles or even fishing nets from really old fishing nets that are useless now, and they're just trash and dangerous in the sea. And they're trying to convert that into 3D printing filament. The only tricky thing, and this is something we have to consider, is there's no such thing as perfectly recycled, totally transformed trash into perfect filament for printing. That is not reality. For 3D printing, you need certain quality of material for you to print correctly. If you put really low quality plastic, your printer is going to have clogs, it's not going to print well, the model is going to print with bad quality. So it's just something to consider. There's no such thing as grabbing trash and then having a beautiful, perfect 3D print from it. That just doesn't happen. So as long as we're aware of that, there's middle ground, right? There's some middle ground of acceptable quality with acceptable recycle percentage.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yes, so the ones that I have used that are recycling filament very consistently one is Reflow, R-E-F-L-O-W, Reflow. They're a company out of the Netherlands, and all of their products are recycled to a percentage. So they don't have a line of filament that is virgin. All of them are recycled. Their company ethos from the beginning was to be recycling, so that's why their name is Reflow. Their filaments are gorgeous. They have a matte, grainy look and feel, which I love. It doesn't look like the, shiny plastic that looks kind of cheap normally. It gives it a really cool appearance that doesn't even look like 3D printed. For architecture, it looks amazing. The other one that does recycling is Greengate. Greengate filaments. This is a green logo. They are of the US and based in the US, and they also do all of it is recycled. They do PETG, is the plastic that we find normally in bottles, like water bottles or soda bottles. That's the plastic they use. And also all of their products are recycled. They don't have a virgin line. All of them are recycled. And then there are tons of other brands that have a recycled line. It's not their main product, but they have options that are recycled. So yeah, almost at this point, I would say almost every brand has a recycled product, if not their own, their whole catalog, whole inventory. All right. So from the models that you saw here and the stage, does anyone have any questions about the ones that we are seeing here? This is obviously just a fraction of what we have. We have 250 plus models published, and these are either very famous, so you will recognize them, or important to the history of the project. So this church that's here on the left is not very known, but it was one of the very first ones we made. This is from a city in the US called Sioux Falls. This is where my wife is from. So that's why I created that model back in 2014. And then the others that you see here are obviously world landmarks that are pretty known. You know, the Sydney Opera House, the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, the Parthenon in Athens, the Pyramid of Kukulkan in Mexico, and the Big Ben. And like that, we have tons and tons and tons, but we're still missing a lot. So if you or someone you know makes things like this, we would love to have them on board and continue to contribute and grow the gallery so that we have more cities and more countries represented. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, if you do reach out on Discord, just tag, do the ads so I get notified. And if you want, also you can contact me on Instagram. That's where I am definitely all the time. Our Instagram handle for MiniWorld is at MiniWorld3D. You will not miss us. We have our logo in our picture, and you will see our feed. There are a few other MiniWorld named things out there that are not related to this, so you will find us. It's MiniWorld3D. And if you direct message that account, it will be me who responds. I manage that account. So I would love to chat with you there. And for our 3D models, you can find them on mymanufacturign.com. That's where the entirety of our catalog is published. And very recently, we have started to also publish it on printables.com. Although we're fairly new there, and we're slowly and gradually move our catalog there so that we can have it also there. It's just going to take a while. So in those two are going to be our major repositories for all of these files, and any new files will also be published in those two. That's where you can find us. All right. Thanks everyone who joined. Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. I had never thought about that. That's wonderful. Amazing. All right, thanks everyone. It was wonderful. This is my first time doing something like this, and it was lovely. I mean, this is just like being in a real place with all of you. So thank you so much for coming.
you.